Members of the board, I'm Greg Pridgeon, your Chief of Staff. I rise to talk with you about items 8A, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. As we had discussed before, the county is in the process of working out agreements with these various vendors where we currently do not have active or contracts at all. At this particular time, we are still in the process, and I ask that you defer these matters to your next meeting. One item, the COBRA item, is very urgent to us, and we are also going to ask for your authorization to move forward with that quickly. We're in conversations with our insurance broker, New Vision. They have brought to the table a firm that they feel comfortable with. That's Bryce. We are comfortable pretty much with this firm, but we do have some additional issues that we need to resolve. And so I'm asking that you defer these matters, and we're asking that they be ratified probably at your September the 27th meeting. The Department of Human Resources has already gone out for our open enrollment, and some of the employees are beginning to select some of these companies. We have these companies under contract, minus the very last one, through the end of September. And so what we will be asking is that you have agreements with them that run October 1 of 2011 through December 31, 2012. But we are asking that you defer these matters today.
Mr. Pridgeon, can you explain to me, we've been talking about this for weeks, can you explain why items 2 through 6 have to be deferred when they're extenuations of our current contracts that are in place?
Well, unfortunately, Commissioner, on all of these items, we don't have active contracts. We don't have one contract that is in place which runs through the end of September. And so we are...
How can it run through the end of September if we don't have a contract?
We don't have one.
Is it because our broker negotiated it and that's how the contract's in place?
No.
Mr. Pridgeon, that doesn't make sense that we have to commit through the end of September.
Contracts. We've been operating, just having an operation.
Well, then we aren't under contract till the end of September if you don't have a contract.
That is correct. You're correct, Commissioner.
I'm very frustrated that we're here today to defer items that should have been taken care of. So somebody needs to explain how you say we're under contract when we're not under contract, but you want to extend it.
I misspoke, Commissioner. We don't have contracts. As I said in my opening statements, we either have contracts that have expired, or we don't have contracts at all. Traditionally, we have worked with these firms to provide services to our employees. As we are finding these various inequities throughout our enterprise, we're trying to bring them to the attention of this board, and then we are proposing that we bid all these matters out next year. And we think that it's appropriate to go through the end of the calendar year so that beginning January 2012, we will have a full complement of contracts in place, fully presented to this board and vetted, and that the citizens and everyone else will have a transparent review of our procedure, that there's a fair and equitable way of procuring the services, and that we won't have this type of situation that exists in
Mr. Pridgeon, I think you've got to be missing some part of the puzzle here, because I can't imagine that we as a county would turn over vital health information to all these companies and nobody signed an agreement somewhere along the way.
I wish I could have other...
Can Mr. Wilson maybe address this? Is that possible?
These are all under his domain. The only one that he may have a relationship with, which we are discussing, is item number 7. All the others, he is not affiliated with that throughout.
Who signed the contract for the county? There is something that has to be signed by the county.
I wish I could tell you.
Mr. Pridgeon.
Yes, sir.
So what you're sharing with the board this morning is that in your research and your findings, these companies that are identified here on the agenda, we don't have any signed agreement, any contract, any type of document that binds Rockdale County and these particular companies together to do business with us?
That's correct, so except for item number 4.
Slow down, sir. Just make sure I'm clear here. There are relationships of some kind that the county has allowed these folks to come into county government and facilitate and to build relationships with our employees. Just number one, I'm very familiar with this company, Aflac.
Yes.
This is basically a supplement insurance company, supplement provider.
Yes.
they don't have to run through the county other than we ushering them into the county and allowing them to speak and begin to build relationships with our employees. Is that correct?
That's not correct. Any relationship that we formally have with a third-party vendor should come before this body to be authorized for us to allow them to do work in our county. These are all, though, matters that don't require the county to put forth money except for item number 4, which is a free service to the employees, and the county does make a payment there. And again, on that item, there was a contract, but it's been, it has concluded, and it's been concluded for many years. We had a relationship with Blue Cross Blue Shield on the matter of COBRA. But when Blue Cross Blue Shield was not the successful bidder to win our health insurance, then they were no longer in the county's stream to provide COBRA services. And so we have tapped our New Vision insurance broker to assist us in locating another company to provide the COBRA services. But we don't have active agreements with any of these.
Did these Blue Cross Blue Shield, did they ever have a contract with the county government?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
And it is an active contract that expires on September 30th of this year.
So as we continue to uncover these winks and handshakes, supposedly, we haven't had any contracts, we hadn't had any agreements. So what we're attempting to do here is to make things transparent. If these companies want to do business in Rockdale County, then they need to come to the table with an agreement, a written agreement, so we can be transparent to the citizens of Rockdale County. Would you agree with that or not agree with that?
I agree with that, Mr. Chair. Not only would they have to come to the table, we would prepare the proper documentation, which would be an RFP or some way for all companies who are interested in doing business with the county to, in a fair procurement process, have that opportunity. Even on the matters where there is no payment directly to the vendor from the county government, whenever there is an opportunity for the employees to have a relationship with the company and the employees have to pay that company a fee, an administrative fee, then that also requires this body's vote and concurrence. Without that, we don't have a formal arrangement.
Mr. Pridgeon, now,
Yes.
obviously you've known about this for a little while. Why didn't you make a phone call to me to let me know? This has been brought up. Yeah, this has been brought up at several meetings, Aflac, Colonial Life. You never indicated there was a problem until today.
Well, the reason that they're on the agenda, Commissioner,
Right.
is because it was a problem. As I've stated at the work sessions and before, it is our intent to bring forth all types of matters of this nature to this board. We have been...
Do you think that's appropriate in a public forum versus making a phone call to each one of us and letting us know so that we can work to get these things cleared up?
I'm not quite sure I understand, Commissioner. The reason they're on this agenda is because of the issues that we are discussing now and that
Right.
we've discussed before. And we've discussed it both publicly and privately, that these were not active contracts.
No.
The fact is we have been trying to work to resolve them since the last meeting, and we don't have all of our signed MOUs in place.
So now you're asking us to ratify them at the
No.
next meeting? Oh, I heard you
We
say
hope
that.
that you will, but you certainly reserve the right not to.
So for our employees' sake, we need to extend these items.
It is my opinion, yes, my
Right.
recommendation.
So
yes.
now we're going to wait till the next meeting, which is the 23rd or so, and you're expecting us to ratify them, is what you said a minute ago. But now we
That
don't
is
have a
correct.
definite plan in place for our employees?
Pretty much, you're correct.
These are vital parts of their employment.
Well,
And
these are all, except for COBRA, these
Right.
are all voluntary. That's why we call them the voluntary or optional benefits, but they are enhancements to their employment.
Don't they renew October 1st?
There's nothing to renew. The answer is yes, we would like for them to be October 1st, a term. They don't exist. There's an arrangement at the moment. But we don't have a formal agreement.
I hear what you're saying, Commissioner. I also hear what Chief Pridgeon is pointing out, that we've not had a documented contract in place or any type of agreement to usher these companies in to allow them to do business with our employees. And I do agree that the Board of Commissioners, before we allow anyone to do business with any group of our employees, we should vet them, and it should come through some type of formal approval process through the board before we just allow anybody to take up and do business with our employees. My question at this point is, do we have in place someone in the Human Resources Department to monitor this type of activity? Because we can sit here all morning and talk about the shoulda, woulda, and coulda of what didn't happen, but going forward, how are we going to prevent this from happening again and put a mechanism in place to make sure that we monitor and make sure that anyone who is interested or thinking about doing business with this county goes through a formal procedural process where they're vetted and it gets the complete approval of the Board of Commissioners before they just take up and start doing business with the employees or with the county as a whole. And it sounds like once upon a time that several of these companies have had some type of verbal arrangement or agreement of some kind, and they've been allowed to take up business with our employees without being properly vetted and going into some type of memorandum or some type of a contract or a sign-off, should I say, by the Board of Commissioners. And that should never take place. You're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. We've talked about no longer having handshake deals in Rockdale County. We're not going to be a part of that. There will be transparency. I don't know whether this date back to a board before us or a board before that board. It doesn't really matter. I'm not looking to shift the blame. I'm saying we need to go ahead and stop it now, and let's do what needs to be done. Call these people in, and if they're interested in doing business with this county, then they're going to have to go through a proper, formal vetting process where the sign-off is by each one of these board members in agreement that they're going to be allowed to do anything with our employees. At this point, we don't want to hinder any employee in terms of, I'll use Aflac again as an example. If an employee has supplemental insurance through Aflac, we want them to continue to have that supplemental insurance. But at the same time, that company and their agent or their representative need to come and sit down and talk with whoever's the chief of staff, HR, and something needs to be coming formally through the Board of Commissioners so that we can sign off, giving them the green light to do business with this county.
Correct. And that's what we're proposing here. We recognize that some of these partners have been very vital to our employee base. While they are voluntary, our employees have used them for their benefit. And so we are not asking and urging that you dismiss of these companies. On the contrary, we're asking that you move forward with these companies and that you allow our procurement department and our HR department in 2012 to go out for a transparent, fair, and open procurement process. And any companies that are interested in providing these services would bid, and we will bring those recommended companies to this board for your final approval. We did not feel that we had the time and the expertise at the time in order to just ask that you disregard these companies and we bring in a new group, because we did not get a chance to go out and procure those. Now, to your first question, is there expertise in HR to manage these type of issues and to oversee our benefits? We have had a person who has been ill for a while, and part of that responsibility has now fallen to our new director. He will make a decision about how to spread out the benefits portion of his operation. And where he goes from there for the future, I'm not sure whether he will ask for additional personnel or outsource part of this activity, but we do have a need to oversee our benefits portion in HR. I want to make sure that you understand that on this list, that Families First did have a contract, so there was a procedure in place at some point to procure those services. That contract extended up to a point a few years ago, and it is no longer in place.
We voted on it last year.
Not for Families First. We don't have an agreement with them.
We had another employee assistance program. I thought that was the one that we had.
This is the one.
This board has voted on an employee assistance program.
It expired in 2009, just like the GEBCOR and the Nationwide. Some of these are in place, but they've expired. So that's what's happened.
And with Aflac Colonial Life, we can't find anything. We don't have any agreements at all. We believe that...
and they verified that there's no agreement in place. Well, this board's been in place since 2009, so to indicate that there's been impropriety, maybe that's just daily operations, not impropriety.
I'm not sure how it occurred.
If we're going to have to take responsibility, then I guess it would fall on us as a board if there's not a contract in place and the people that we hire to look at those things.
And that's what you're having now, items that are being presented to you.
Well, then I think we need to stop trying to blame other people and take responsibility for those things. And that means you should have made a phone call to each one of us so that we could take care of this instead of airing it in the public view.
Again, I'm missing something, Commissioner. This is what we've been talking about for weeks
a couple of months now.
But you have not said until today there's no contracts and now we have to delay it again and then we'd like for you to ratify it. That seems very inappropriate.
With all due respect, Commissioner, I have made those statements publicly. This is not a new...
You have said previously we don't have contracts and we have to delay again.
Yes. On the at the work session, I mentioned that we were working on these matters. I have made it known to you all that we were holding off on bringing these forward until we could clarify the mandatory benefits package. Initially, I wanted to try to bring it all at once, but upon consultation with the team, preferred to break it into two parts, and this is the second part of that arrangement. The first part, which was the mandatory, required you to do a similar process, and we also had a similar situation where some of the contracts didn't exist.
For Blue Cross Blue Shield?
Not Blue Cross Blue Shield.
I thought that's who you were talking about.
Emeritus, not Wells Fargo, Mutual of Omaha, and some others. We don't have contracts that are in place that are...
Mr. Pridgen.
Yes.
For the sake of time.
Yes, sir.
And a point of clarity, what is the plan moving forward?
We're asking that you defer action on these today. We have been in contact with these companies. They are working with us.
How much time are you going to need to collaborate with HR and those in-house experts to do what needs to be done to communicate with these companies and to get back with us within a timely fashion so that we can move forward and prevent this from happening again? I think we have to take some ownership as a board. I'm not interested in blaming anybody. I think that this is a matter that needs to be addressed, and if we have anyone, again, doing business with our county, we need to continue to send this message that we're not going to enter into any agreement with any business or entity unless they have a contract or some type of formal agreement with Rockdale County Board of Commissioners. Moving forward, how much time do you need to get back?
We hope to have this concluded this week. Most of these vendors have expressed their willingness to work with us. We haven't had anyone say similar to what we had with Blue Cross Blue Shield at the time, who's refused to work within the time frame or work within what we're asking them. It's just a matter of their corporations and our attorneys and our financial people being able to say, yes, we all agree. But we haven't had a situation where they've been pushing back on us because they all realize that we have not had a formal agreement in place.
Mr. Pridgen, you're asking here today then basically to defer 2 through 6?
I'm asking for 2 through 6.
And move on 7.
Well, I'd like to discuss 7 further then, if that's what we would like to do. If you would like to take the motion on 2 through 6 first.
Commissioner, what's your pleasure? I'd like to look at, let's move items 2 through 6 on a potential motion and then discuss item number 7, if that would be the pleasure of the board, so we can move this process forward. Yeah, I agree. We don't, we know we have some dirt up under the, not dirt, some mess up under the carpet, and we're going to go forward. There is a responsibility. We had that responsibility when we took office in January. So we've been doing the daily due diligence and uncovering so many things. And we're not trying to throw anybody up under the bus. We have been put in place to be fiscally responsible and transparent to this community. And we're going to do that. Will we make enemies along the way? Probably so. But if we're going to move here on 2 through 6, then I'd like to see our board consider deferring 2 through 6 for action. And as the commissioners stated, we need action sooner than later for our employees' sakes. And I think by the 27th, we should have this resolution or completed. Would that be safe to say that?
It would be safe to say that, Mr. Chair, but understand that at that point we would be asking for ratification.
Ratification.
These are all our existing vendors, and we would be asking for ratification. If they all agree with where we think they are, is to stay the same.
Okay.
And the key point that's been made also, Chief Pridgeon, is that between that time or during that time that there is clear, concise communication with all members of this board,
Yes.
keeping us abreast as to your findings and what you come up with between now and that particular time, so that we won't have to come back into this particular setting and say that we've not been informed or educated or made aware of anything that's going on. We need to make sure that each one of us have been properly communicated from your office or whomever's going to be taking charge of this particular task, and that clear communication is with the entire board.
We'll do that.
Okay.
Do you have samples of the contract at this time that we can look at that's been presented to them?
I don't have that with me, no, but we could make that available. What we are using is a template provided to us by the county attorney and others, which is the same that we use for the other companies. And behind the template, which will be their scope of work. So the template that you have for Emeritus, for Blue Cross Blue Shield, for the other companies, is going to be pretty much the same wording, fill in the blank, and then there will be an attachment to that which reflects their specifics. So, for example, Aflex does supplemental insurance and reflects that there's no cost to the county, but the employees pay that fee. And same thing would be for GevCorps. They do deferred compensation, but the model will be the same. The MOUs will be the same as what we had for the other companies.
And I think for a point of clarity, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Van Ness, we need to make sure that the message leads here very clearly that our employees' supplemental insurance is not in jeopardy. We don't want to sound a false alarm to anyone. It's not in jeopardy, and that you will be getting back with us in a timely fashion, and they will have the opportunity to elect to do business with whatever company that comes properly through the vetting process. Is that correct, sir?
That's almost correct, Commissioner. Almost correct in the sense that the open enrollment is happening now.
Right.
And so we believe that if all things continue as they are right now, these are vendors that have been working with us, they're providing a solid service, they've been friendly to our employees, and that we would be asking for ratification, basically, on the 27th for these companies. That's our intention.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Pridgeon. Commissioners, what's your pleasure here?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to defer items 2 through 6 until this committee, along with the Chief of Staff and our county attorney, has an opportunity to review these companies and the procedures and processes to do business with Rockdale County with a contract and or an agreement that is formal and presented to the board.
I have a motion. I second that the motion to items 2 through 6 to defer with contract. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. 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 All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item number 7 is a little bit different. As I indicated before, Blue Cross Blue Shield had an organization that they worked with to provide the COBRA assistance to our employees. And COBRA is a program when an employee leaves the employment of the county, they have the option of continuing their insurance, their health insurance, for I think up to 18 months. When we obtain the services of Coventry, they have told us that they will not provide the COBRA services. And so we have reached out to our insurance broker, New Vision. They have had a negotiation with a company named Bryce, B-R-I-C-E, and that company has agreed to provide the COBRA services. The county government would enter into this agreement with Bryce.
Basic? Is that correct?
Basic, I'm sorry. Basic. B-A-S-I-C. B-A-S-I-C. The county government would enter into the agreement with this firm that's presented to us by our insurance broker. There is generally a fee associated with the COBRA services. our insurance brokerage firm, New Vision, has indicated that they are willing to absorb the cost associated with the COBRA services. We are very appreciative of their offer. I think it is one that would be beneficial to our bottom line. We are trying to work through the legal matters that relate to that arrangement and exactly how we would be able to make an agreement with New Vision to make the payment to our third-party vendor. We know it's going to happen, and we believe that New Vision has the capacity to make these payments, and they have graciously offered that to our county to help us defray the cost of having our COBRA services. And so we have been, I've been a little bit uneasy about the arrangement without there being formal documentation to present. There is indeed a financial matter that I think has been resolved by New Vision's offer. I think that in their review of the company, they have the capacity to deliver the services. So I'm comfortable with that. I think that our procurement staff is comfortable with the procurement procedure that was used to secure BASIC. I've had a little unreadiness about that, but we are trying to work through to make sure that that meets all of our requirements.
So purchasing or the team is ready to move forward with the corporate insurance through BASIC. Is that correct?
Most of the team is, Mr. Chairman. Again, I have no document to show that there's a formal agreement between the county and our insurance broker to accept the offer to actually make a payment on a regular basis to BASIC.
What is the timetable, time limit on this particular deal?
Well, we need to have this in place by October 1 because that is the same time frame that Blue Cross Blue Shield's agreement concludes September 30th. So October 1 is the date we have to have, finally have to have this. There may be some other logistics between this company and the county where there is documentation they need to have in place quicker than that. They have to be able to have informational knowledge that we're moving faster than that so that they can put their documentation in place.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion? I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on item 8A7 pending final approval by the county attorney and our contract with BASIC.
I second that motion. I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, will we need a separate contract for New Vision to handle the COBRA? Because it may not be spelled out in the first contract, and certainly I'm not in favor of any winks or handshake deals.
That has been part of our concern, Commissioner, and I think that we can work through that. Again, I believe New Vision has the financial capacity. They have the will to make this arrangement happen.
So we make sure that you get a contract for that as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chief Pridgen, one last point I want to make before you take your seat. As we move forward, we certainly do appreciate the monitoring and detecting and discovering of these non-agreements of non-contract, or for whatever reason they happen. Can you all, you and whoever you're working with on your team, go ahead and, while you're researching, if there's anything else or anybody else out there like that, go ahead and bring them forward to us now. Let's get this cleared up before the end of this year so that we can move forward doing business the way business is supposed to be done in the county by having contracts, formal agreements, so this won't continue. It takes up a lot of our time to come in here and talk about this kind of thing, kind of in a haphazard kind of way. I think it is important. It is important that we have clear transparency throughout county government, but I'm asking that you would embrace the task of finding and researching any company, any entity that does not currently have a contract or an agreement with the county. Please come forward at this time. We need that information so we'll know who they are and we can get to the bottom of this and begin to develop the right type of relationship and establish a contract and do business the way it should be done. So we won't be dealing with this come January, February, March, all over again, and we can go ahead and nip this in the bud and move forward.
Commissioner, thank you very much. I can tell you that under the direction of the Chair CEO, that myself, along with the Finance Department, working with Ms. Malone, along with our cabinet or our directors, are in the process now of identifying all arrangements, all agreements, all contracts, all MOUs that are in the departments. We will also have information about when the contract or arrangement started, how much it's for, who the project manager is within the department who oversees that contract, and we hope to have a full and comprehensive list relatively soon. It is something that we have been working on. It is something we hope to come forward with relatively soon, but I suspect it will be sometime in the fourth quarter before we can get our arms around it. It is a monumental task.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner, because as we continue to move forward, there's a lot of components to this piece here, and our purchasing department, working in cooperation with our directors, you got the software that we should have in place, will have in place, will help us to flag these contracts as they come up 6 months, 9 months down the road, so we can begin to prepare properly. And that's just part of the administration's continued effort to move forward to identify these things early on as opposed to late, so we can avoid these kinds of conversations. But this all takes a process. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to item number B, please. Our request for Wowsman.